US President Donald Trump has ordered a pause on US military aid to Ukraine following his clash with President Volodymyr Zelensky at the Oval Office on Friday. A White House official said Trump hopes the move will pressure Zelensky into engaging in peace talks with Russia, following the Ukrainian president's comments that an end to the war is still very, very far away. It comes after President Trump told reporters during a White House press conference that Zelensky would not be around very long if he does not make a deal with Russia.
Somebody doesn't want to make a deal, and if somebody doesn't want to make a deal, I think that person won't be around very long. That person will not be listened to very long because I believe that Russia wants to make a deal.
For his part, President Zelensky says Russian President Vladimir Putin can't be trusted to maintain a ceasefire and says Ukrainians won't lay down their arms without security commitments from the United States and Europe. The dispute between the US and Ukrainian leaders has also thrown a potential mineral agreement into doubt, although Trump on Monday said the pact is still a great deal. The pause on aid is not believed to be a permanent end of US assistance and comes as Trump is preparing to give his State of the Union address to a joint session of Congress on Tuesday night. Leader of the CDU, Friedrich Merz, who will likely become Germany's next chancellor, called Friday's dispute between Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, US President Donald Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance a manufactured escalation. Speaking at a press conference in Hamburg, Merz said it is now the time for Europe to show it can act independently. Friday's meeting at the Oval Office took a heated turn when Trump and Vance criticized the Ukrainian leader for what they called disrespectful behavior, leading to Zelensky's abrupt exit from the White House without finalizing the two nations' minerals agreement. European leaders have since rallied around the Ukrainian president, with UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer holding a summit in London following the clash. Starmer and French President Emmanuel Macron are now working together to present a peace plan to Donald Trump, with the UK Prime Minister acknowledging that Europe needs to do more on its own defence and security. The two nations are also working to recruit other countries to send troops to Ukraine to protect a ceasefire in what Starmer calls a coalition of the willing.
President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, wants to grant automakers more breathing space and propose to relax emission targets. Instead of annual targets, auto manufacturers will now have up to 3 years to meet the bloc's CO2 standards. This would help them avoid the multi-million-dollar fines they could be exposed to.
I will propose a focused amendment to the CO2 standards regulation this month. Instead of the annual compliance, companies will get 3 years. This is the principle of banking and borrowing. The targets stay the same. They have to fulfill the targets, but it means more breathing space for industry.
Von der Leyen's announcement comes after the second meeting with industry representatives and just days after the closure of the Audi factory in Brussels, releasing its 3,000 workers on Friday. While the proposal is welcomed by car companies, the European Consumer Organization and a number of EV manufacturers believe the decision will have a negative impact on the rollout of electric cars in Europe.
The Vatican shared early on Tuesday that Pope Francis was resting after he suffered further setbacks in his fight against pneumonia. The Pope had 2 new acute respiratory crises that required him to resume using non-invasive mechanical ventilation to breathe. Doctors extracted what they said were copious amounts of mucus from his lungs on Monday. Although the doctors used the past tense to indicate that the crises were over, they did not specify if the Pope was still stable. The Vatican said the accumulated mucus was a reaction to the original pneumonia and not a new infection. It added that Pope Francis remained alert, oriented, and cooperated with medical personnel. The crises were a new setback in what has become a more than 2-week battle by the Pope to overcome a complex respiratory infection.
Russian strikes targeted Ukraine overnight, injuring 4 people. The casualties were reported in a drone attack on the Black Sea port city of Odessa late on Monday, according to Ukraine's state emergency service. Officials said critical infrastructure and residential buildings were damaged, leading to power cuts across parts of the city. The northeastern city of Sumy was also struck in the early hours of Tuesday. Ukraine's state emergency service said a strike sparked a fire at a children's health facility, but no injuries were reported. The attack comes after US President Donald Trump on Monday announced a pause in military assistance to Ukraine in a bid to pressure Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to engage in negotiations to end the war with Russia.
Security guarantees for Ukraine have become an even hotter topic among European leaders following Sunday's meeting in London, where around 15 of Kyiv's allies gathered. In practical terms, this means equipping Ukraine with real military or political measures to deter any future Russian offensive. France and the United Kingdom are talking about sending troops and seeking to gather support by forming a coalition willing to act as a deterrent.
The only way to make that credible is by pre-deploying troops into Ukraine, not between the Ukrainians and the Russians. And the Ukrainian army is not going to go home when our troops arrive, but behind the Ukrainians, in significant numbers, let's say an army corps of 50,000 troops, to send a clear message to Russia, we are very serious about this.
Other options include stockpiling European weapons in Ukraine in advance. The step is to agree on the exact role any European troops would hold.
C'est l'objet de beaucoup de discussions dans le sens où envoyer des troupes, c'est pareil, qu'est-ce que ça veut dire? Est-ce que ça veut dire envoyer des troupes dans l'ouest de l'Ukraine pour libérer des soldats ukrainiens de l'ouest de l'Ukraine pour aller au front? Est-ce que c'est du maintien de la paix? C'est deux choses différentes. Et dans ce cas-là, le maintien de la paix, ça veut dire troupes de maintien de la paix qui sont positionnées sur le front pour empêcher les combats. Donc c'est beaucoup de choses différentes.
But to be credible, Europeans will ultimately have to rely on their American ally, particularly when it comes to intelligence. This means securing US guarantees to help prevent any direct confrontation between Russian and European forces. NATO membership for Ukraine is not an option, as Washington has ruled out expanding the alliance.
At least 2 people were killed and several injured after a car drove into a crowd in the German city of Mannheim. Several cities across the country were holding parades to mark the carnival season. A suspect was arrested and taken into custody, according to German police.
Wir können bestätigen, dass ein Täter festgenommen wurde. Ob es weitere Täter gab, dazu können wir aktuell keine Angaben machen. Die Ermittlungen laufen noch auf Hochtouren.
Local media report that a black SUV drove at high speed into a pedestrianised street close to where a carnival market was held. Authorities pushed an alert on the Catwarn app telling people in Mannheim to avoid the downtown area due to a large police deployment. The app is used by officials to communicate information about major emergencies. The incident comes only 2 weeks after 2 people were killed in a car ramming in Munich.
Wow, okay.
Honora was the name that echoed around the room at the 97th edition of the Oscars Film Awards.
Thank you so much, and for all your incredible work.
The independent film took home 5 Oscars, including Best Director for Sean Baker.
I'm very passionate about. Well, first off, thank you to the Academy.
While accepting the award, he let out his battle cry, encouraging people to support independent cinemas.
So we're all here tonight and watching this broadcast because we love movies. Where did we fall in love with the movies? At the movie theater. Watching a film in the theater with an audience is an experience. We can laugh together, cry together, scream and fight together, perhaps sit in devastated silence together. And in a time in which the world can feel very divided, this is more important than ever.
Baker also won Best Picture, Best Director, Best Original Screenplay and Best Editing, becoming the first person ever to take home 4 Oscars in one night for the same film.
Long live independent.
Nora also won Best Actress for Mikey Madison, who plays a sex worker who falls for the son of a Russian billionaire. In her speech, she paid tribute to sex workers. Adrian Brody won his second Oscar by winning Best Actor for his performance in Brady Corbett's The Brutalist, in which he plays architect and Holocaust survivor Laszlo Todt. OVP leader Christian Stocker was sworn in as Austria's new Chancellor on Monday, heading a 3-party coalition government. After months of talks, his centre-right party, the centre-left Social Democrats and the Liberal Neos clinched a deal last week. SPO's leader Andreas Babler has been sworn in as Vice-Chancellor. A former lawyer, 64-year-old Stocker has been a member of the Austrian Parliament since 2019, but has never served in a national government. Stocker has expressed his commitment to the European Union and is critical of Russia. The coalition agreement includes introducing stricter measures for asylum seekers, revising tenancy laws, and implementing planned benefit cuts.